Hey guys, it's Georgia, and in this video, I'm going to go over all of my camera and audio settings to get the best results possible when making a film. So this is something I'm always struggling with, and even though it's good to know what kind of gear you need to buy or brands to look into, that's only half the battle. Without knowing how to properly set all of that up, you're still not going to get the kind of quality you want out of your films. So now I'm putting it all together, and hopefully this will give you some ideas as to how to lock down your camera and audio settings once and for all. So let's start with the camera. I set mine to 1920 by 1080p at 24 frames per second. For the in-camera audio, I turn it all the way down to 2. That way there's a tiny bit of boost, but it's still low enough that there's not going to be any background hiss. So for picture settings, I select neutral, but if you click the right arrow, you can go in and adjust these even further. The sharpness all the way down, I turn my contrast all the way down, saturation all the way down, and hue I leave at neutral. So now that my image quality has been set up, I'm going to grab my Rode VideoMic Pro and plug it directly into my Nikon. Now, I leave the audio settings on the Nikon at level 2, and for the Rode, I set the decibels up to +20, and I turn on the high pass filter. And that's all I use. I'm using that setting right now to vlog to you guys. So now I'm going to take the Rode VideoMic Pro and plug it into the Zoom H1. For the Rode, I'm going to push the settings back to 0, but I am going to leave the high pass filter on. So on the back of the Zoom H1, I'm going to leave all these settings set to the left. I'm going to keep the low cut off, the auto levels off, and the recording format is going to be in WAV. If you click on one of the arrows on the side of the zoom, that allows you to change the kilohertz and bit rate. And then I'm going to go in and change it to 48 kilohertz at 24 bits. And you can also do 44 at 16, but I've heard this is also a really good one to use, so it's really up to you. After that, I'm going to set my recording levels to about 55 or 60. And testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. I am using the Rode VideoMic Pro with the Zoom H1, and I'm doing another test. The microphone is about 1 foot away from my mouth, same as the Audio Technica, and this is what it sounds like with all the settings described. You can find these settings in the description below and see if this works for you. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. And testing the Rode VideoMic Pro plugged into the Zoom H1 again. This time I've pushed the mic back to be about 3 feet away from my mouth. This is what it sounds like. All the settings are the same. I haven't changed anything, not even the recording levels. This is what it sounds like. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Rode VideoMic Pro plugged into the Zoom H1. So I'm still using the Rode VideoMic Pro plugged into the Zoom H1, but I moved it closer, and now I'm going to go over the Zoom H4N Pro. So one of the things you want to notice is that the Zoom H4N Pro has stamina mode, and you can switch it on, so that saves your battery. But for now, we're going to leave it off, because once stamina mode's on, it's going to limit all of your menu options, and we need those now to go into our settings. So first, we're going to turn on the Zoom H4N. Okay, so now that the Zoom H4 is on, we're going to go into the menu and go to recording. And here you see we have recording format options. So right now I have mine at 44 kilohertz and 16 bits. You can go to the same 4824 that I did for the Zoom H1, but for now I'm just going to leave it here. So what you want to do next in the menu is scroll down until you see mode, and you can choose, you're going to want to just choose stereo mode here. Now this is interesting. One thing you'll notice that when it's recording in stereo, it only plays through the left channel, and that's also how your file's gonna output. So what you want to do is select input and go to mono mix. And I'm actually gonna turn that on. And let's test the recording. So now it's just monitoring the sound. It's not recording yet. And if I do a couple tests, sorry, I'm just clapping my hands. If I do a couple tests, now you're gonna see it's playing through both channels. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. I am using my Audio-Technica 897 shotgun mic with the Zoom H4N Pro. The Audio-Technica is about a foot away from my mouth right now, so that is the sound you're hearing, and we're using all of the settings that I described here. If you want to see the actual specs, click on the description below, and I will have everything listed for you. Testing, 1, 2, 3 testing. And now I'm going to switch to the Rode VideoMic Pro plugged into the Zoom H1. Testing, testing. Now I'm using the Audio-Technica plugged into the Zoom H4N Pro again. I have pushed it back to about 3 feet, and this is what you're hearing. Everything is the same. The recording level is about 75 on the Zoom H4N Pro. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3 testing. This is what you're hearing. I have it at a makeshift prop setup, so this might still affect how the recording turns out, but this is what it sounds like. And remember the file output is WAV 44.1 at 16 bits, not at the 4824 that the Zoom H4N. No, I'm sorry. And remember that the output on this one is a WAV format at 44.1 and 16 bits, whereas the Zoom H1 is at 4824. So you'll probably hear a bit of a difference because the output files are different. So the specs for each of these settings is in the description. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope this helped you out a little bit, and I'll see you in the next video.